is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back to Run It Back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the KCSN. I am your host, Jazsmin Halliburton, and none other than with me is Jon the Shake Grove, the man who has the plan, pretty much all things at Wildcat 91.9, has his own shows on Friday night. Jon, thank you so much for joining me here today on your very first showing of Run It Back, at least this first.
It's great to be here, Jazsmin. I actually moved it to Thursday nights as well. I always just say this joke to many people. It's one of the most fluid schedules in all of mankind. But it's great to be here, Jazsmin. Looking forward to talking some K-State sports.
Of course, everything always moves in 91.9 when I'm no longer there. First, your show is now on Thursdays instead of Fridays. Y'all using the union setup that has been there literally for years, but we never damn use it until, of course, the year that I leave. But that's neither here or there. I'll eventually get over it. I don't, maybe not. But either way, that's besides the point. We're going to still be talking some K-State sports, starting off, with volleyball. Then we'll have a very special guest, none other than K-State captain Aliyah El-Naggar for K-State soccer, and talk about more K-State soccer matchups coming this week, along with volleyball matchups as well. But first, we do got to start off with volleyball, and it was a rough Saturday all around for K-State sports. First, it was K-State losing to Mizzou in a very just thug fashion with a 61-yard field goal to win the game. Honestly, it's 61 yards. You can't be too bad at that. It's the things that lead up to that you can be bad at. You can leave that at that. And then, of course, with the unfortunate scheduling conflict, K-State volleyball, who played at the same exact time as K-State football, they lost in 3 straight sets against Rice University. That sucked. That sucked. Saturday was just a rough day for all the people in purple, or at least the right shade of purple. It's just a rough day, Jon. But it is what it is. It's sports. Sports, feels great, and also feels like the worst thing in the world if you go on the wrong end of things. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's your turn, and it's your turn. And Saturday was our turn. But starting off with this matchup against Rice, K-State started off well in the set. They started off well in the set. They were up, I want to say, about 4 or 5 points, and then Rice is actually a really good team. Rice is unranked in this matchup. They started out the season ranked, and I think they came in, I want to say, 5-4, or at least, I know, maybe 5-3 in this matchup. And a lot of their losses, they were against ranked opponents. They had losses against 16th ranked Baylor, number 5 ranked Stanford, and more recently, before this K-State matchup and this K-State Invitational, when they played LIU as well, Rice did, they lost against number 6 Texas. So pretty much, they're of their 4 losses. They had 4 losses on the season. 3 of them came to ranked opponents. So this Rice team, they don't suck. Okay, this Rice team does not suck whatsoever. But it was just a rough game. They lost in 3 straight sets. They lost first set 25-15. Then the next 2 sets were a lot closer. They lost 25-23, then 25-21. And unfortunately, that's been kind of the theme when K-State has played, other Power 5 or kind of Power 5, Rice and Power 5, they're more like Group of 6. They just got added in American Conference. But the 2 losses, they played only those, Power 5 schools, Division I schools, them being Rice and Nebraska. Nebraska's number 4 ranked. It's Nebraska. You know what I mean? You hope for a lot with Nebraska. It would be nice to get a win against Nebraska, but it would not the most shocking thing in the world that they, lost to Nebraska, the number 4 ranked. Then, of course, Rice. K-State got a lot of wins in this non-conference schedule that they have. They in this non-conference run at, I want to say, 6-4. They've had a lot of nice wins, but no really impressive wins. Because the biggest schools that they did play was number 4 Nebraska and Rice. 2 previously ranked teams, 2 very good teams, not getting me wrong, tournament teams. But the other teams that they played, and that's not their fault, it's just scheduling. There wasn't a really strong schedule, non-conference schedule anyway, but that's just kind of how things worked out, Jon.
It's kind of like a tale of 2 teams. And my dad, he was previously one of the former coaches on K-State volleyball. He always told me, you gotta play the best in order to be the best. And this Rice program, they've taken over the Conference USA for the past 2 to 3 years. It's their first year in the American Athletic Conference, and by no means is that an easy conference as well? Because SMU has been making a lot of noise as well. But this Rice program, I mean, they schedule a lot of difficult opponents to kind of give an additional boost towards their RPI or strength of schedule, especially in week 1 where they came in and swept USC. So by all means, losing to Rice, I mean, it's nothing too much to shove a stick about. I guess for one thing, and going kind of referring to the strength of schedule a little bit for K-State is kind of your chances at making the NCAA tournament, because there are probably 6 teams right now, I believe 5 or 6, who are ranked in the ABCA top 25. So you have plenty of opportunities to go to get some big marquee wins in conference play. But looking at the non-conference schedule, you did schedule the likes of Nebraska. You did schedule the likes of Rice. Lipscomb in occasional years has been pretty good as well, but nothing that fully stands out. It is going to be kind of boosting K-State's RPI in regards to that. So, and it's a first year as well for Jason Mansfield. I mean, you want to start off getting a lot of wins under your belt as well. So, we'll see in the years to come how difficult is the coaching staff able to kind of get that schedule up and running a little bit. But nonetheless, it's still a pretty good non-conference start for K-State. What was it? 6-3 start overall, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the Cats are able to do against the Horned Frogs this upcoming weekend at the Morgan Volleyball Arena.
Yeah, and I 1000% agree, because, like I said, they haven't been able to win a set against these bigger schools such as Rice and such as Nebraska. Once again, Nebraska number 4th ranked. That is what that is. And even Rice as well. It just they haven't been able to win a set with those things. Obviously, when they play other competition, they've been able to run through them. I vote Lipscomb. That's the game, in my opinion, they probably should not have lost, but it's always K-State always has one game where they lose to someone they probably shouldn't. Every sport, every year, without fail, there's always that one, right? So it's just more so, and the strength is there. Watching these games, watching them do what they do, like, the opportunity is there for them to win these sets, because there are a lot of close sets, especially with this most recently against Rice. The last 2 sets was 25-23, 25-21. In the third set, they were down by as much as, I want to say, 8-9. And then they started kind of making a little bit of a run. They had Brenna Schmidt in there. They had Wilson in there. They had a lot of other younger players just like, you know what, let's just see what we got. You know what I mean? Trying to get things in. And they're able to get it within another 4 when it was really, really bad for a moment. Of course, the second set, 25-23. And even Rice had like an 11-0 run it's at some point in that second set. So obviously, the common denominator with this team is that they do not give up whatsoever. They do get swept. These sets, they're not getting run out the gym. You know what I mean? They're not getting run out the gym. So obviously this talent is there. It's a new coach, new system. At least in my opinion, I think they're doing really well than a lot of other teams would be having a new coach. Normally when you got a new coach, you got to be prepared to have a couple of down years before things start to really get set in stone. You know what I mean? But I think they're doing a good job trying to figure that out. And they're also trying to, and I've noticed in these non-conference games, they're trying to find somebody who can play next to Aliyah Carter. Obviously, Aliyah Carter, she's on the floor. She's going to be on the floor the entire time. She's going to work that left side the entire time. And obviously, of course, she's probably the best player on this team, one of the best players in the conference and one of the top outside hitters just in the country altogether, right? So I know Coach Mansfield, he's trying to find, who is that person who can play opposite of Aliyah Carter? And he's done a lot with Liz Gregorski, of course, transfer from Wisconsin. Wisconsin, a really good program, I think, number 1 ranked at the moment. Then Anaya Clay. She's been really, really good. Kind of jumped on the scene a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, who is this? Kind of her coming out party the last few games as well. And then, of course, Shaylee Myers. I think those 3 women, that's been kind of where coach is trying to see who can play opposite of Aliyah Carter. And I know Liz Gregorski, she's had 47 kills in this conference so far. Shaylee Myers had 46. I know they played Liz a little bit on that back line, a little bit more than the outside hitter spots, at least more recently, the last few games. And of course, Shaylee Myers, but Nia Clinton, I know she's probably been the most impressive because she's had a total of 64 kills to Liz Gregorski's 47 and Shaylee Myers' 46 kills in these non-conference games so far. So I still think he probably transition a lot more with Shaylee Myers and Anaya Clinton kind of mirroring on that outside hitter spot of Aliyah Carter. And of course, you can use any one of those 3. It's really when you need Leah Carter get some rest because she played a lot. she's not leaving that floor. She's doing a lot in the back line. She's not leaving that floor. So it's really important to try to find somebody who can mirror her and mirror her strength, you know?
Especially in regards to the lineup for K-State, you're always gonna you always want to have the top dog in terms of kind of rallying the team together. You want that leader to kind of help rack up some more additional points for K-State and in the game of volleyball as well, and kind of referring to the runs a little bit against Rice. It all sort of depends on the setup that you have on the court, like what type of rotation you're going through as well. And I think another thing to point out is just the endurance. So you kind of have to put the type of rotations into play because that could really determine whether or not these stretches of runs can occur. And you're right. I mean, there was at one point where K-State went on what was an 809 run. So it's just all about keeping the endurance kind of up to par a little bit, and just trying to adapt to the certain rotation because there's a lot of teams that are able to benefit off of a certain rotation, while there are a lot of others that are that'll be going through several scoring droughts as well. In regards to the attacking or hitting situation, we were kind of going into the year assuming that Shaylee Myers was likely going to be kind of alongside Aliyah Carter in regards to the in regards to the kill and attack production as well, hitting production is a better way of putting it. But kudos to Jason Mansfield in regards to kind of giving the competition a little bit for several of these players, because you mentioned it. Anaya Clinton, she's been very impressive lately. 6 kills against Rice. She had, I believe, 28 attacks as well. So just getting more of those players additional competition, just kind of making sure they're going to earn that spot. I think that's one of the greater aspects when it comes to coaching. And the same thing applies to football as well, because everybody wants to talk about like, oh, we got Will Howard at the starting QB. I mean, he's going to give everybody. I mean, Coach Kleiman's going to give everybody an opportunity to kind of compete for the same spot. It's he wants the parity. He wants to see what's the best to expect out of all these players. And same thing applies for the volleyball program, and I'm sure that applies for Mike Dabini's soccer squad as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. And of course, they got TCU coming up to start conference play. TCU is coming in at 7-4. They played 5. Is that? Yeah, I guess they'll.
I don't know.
If it's horns anyway, it's always going to be down. You feel
we're working on it. We're working on it.
It'll be figured out. But they're coming in at 7-4. They played 5 Power 5 schools already. They've won 3 of those 5 games against those Power 5 schools. Their only 2 losses are coming in the Big 12, Big 10 Challenge against number 7 ranked Minnesota, and at that point, number 2 ranked Wisconsin. So it's another matchup. So once again, another game. You want to see how this K-State team will do. Winning a set, kind of starting better, a little bit better, because I know a couple times, especially in these games, such as against Nebraska and against Rice, they don't really finish that first set very well. They kind of lose those sets by like 9 or 10, and then they start getting a little bit tighter in the second and third set. So if they can come out and win this first set against TCU, it'll be huge following the rest of the match. So before we get into more stuff, we have a very special guest with Aliyah El-Naggar coming in. Gonna ask her a couple questions after a huge and insane goal that she had to tie the game against Cincinnati. We'll get to her. But first, please go to homefieldapparel.com to get you some new K-State gear. The season is already underway in both football, soccer, and volleyball. Please get y'all some new gear. I know y'all need some. And by the way, I do this every other week. Last week I missed it because my fault. But last week and this week, we're starting to do with Studio Wax, where you have a K-State female athlete who is doing something super duper dope within the community, and that female athlete will get a $50 gift card to Studio Wax. And so this week's winner is none other than a familiar guest, Jazsmin Brown from K-State Soccer. She volunteered in Arizona at a preschool and involved in the Women in Sports Day event that playing soccer with all the kiddos there. So congratulations to Jazsmin Brown. And please go to Studio Wax, everybody. Kylie, the owner of Studio Wax, she'll get y'all set up and good to go. We'll be right back with Run It Back.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Run It Back here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I have a very, very special guest, none other than K-State captain Aliyah El-Naggar. Aliyah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Aliyah, obviously, I talked a little bit about it in that first segment. It was, we were like 1-0 down against Cincinnati to start, Big 12 conference. K-State was on this 4-game skid. Then all of a sudden, there was a foul about 30 yards from the box, and you doing what you do, always taking those set pieces, and just hit a crazy, crazy ball off the far post and into the back of the net to tie this game. And in my opinion, such a huge thing, because coming off of that 4-game skid and able to get this draw against a really good Cincy team. So please, can you just walk me through that goal for a minute?
Yeah. So at first, I wasn't supposed to take it, actually. We thought it was farther out for more of a free kick instead of like a shooting range one. So I was not supposed to take it. Maddie Weichel was supposed to. And then on the bench, Matt comes up to me and was like, "Hey, do you want a shot at this?" And I was like, I'll take it, thinking that it was a free kick still. And he was like, "Go take a look at it and see if you want to shoot it, because we've been practicing this a lot in practice." And so went over and I was like, wow, that's a clear view of the back post. I was like, let's go for it. So at first, my teammate Andrew was actually like right in the lane with it, and her player was with her. And I was like, Andrew, scoot over. Like, I'm gonna nail your player in the head if like you don't scoot over. And she was like, we got it. So she ended up going closer to the backside. And just when I went up to hit the ball, I was like, either I'm gonna hit it like a center back and nail it over, or I'm gonna fall through this thing really hard and I'm gonna get a very good hit on it. And so that's what I was hoping for. And when I went up right away, when I hit the ball, I knew that it was going to be a pretty good strike. And yeah, it just went the exact place that I was hoping for. So that was really exciting.
Pretty exciting, girl. This was almost Sports Center top 10. That it should have been. Like, honestly, where does this rank as like one of your best goals? I know you're like your defender, backline. I don't know how many opportunities you get to actually score a goal, but this has to be up there with it, right?
Yeah, this is probably my best goal. I had won my first spring here at Mizzou to tie the game in the last, I think, 10 seconds. That was really cool, but it wasn't like a shot. It was more so like from hard work. So this one was really cool, just being able to shoot the ball. Since, yes, I am a defender, so we don't get as many of those chances. So I'm just happy that my coaches trusted me that I could do it. So, yeah.
See, I noticed because I think you take a lot of these set pieces. I know I talked to Jazsmin Brown a few weeks ago before how you guys, it looks like you guys are being more creative as far as your set pieces go. I know against Creighton, I think, Karen C kind of touched the ball quarterless. She held it and then you kicked it and it was that close to going over the crossbar. And I kind of sat back. I was like, oh. I was like, this is a little different, because I was on the sideline for you guys last season. And I was just like, this is just a complete difference, at least from my vision, right? Can you talk to me about how more creative these set pieces are getting for you guys? What's that freedom, if there is any freedom of y'all's in your set pieces?
Yeah, no, I think we just have a lot of people that can hit that kind of ball. Not saying in the past that we didn't at all. I think we also did back then, but I think our coaches are also trusting us a little bit more. And especially, we're great in the air, but attacking free kicks are very hard. It's easier on the defending side because you're facing outward, so it's easier to get the ball out. So it's hard. So hitting those at times, it's kind of risky because that also could turn into a counterattack. That puts us in a bad position, especially with, Jazsmin Brown up there and usually Kenzie Gillespie in the box. Those are our two center backs. So I think that, once again, it's just a little bit more of trust and knowing that we have people on this team that are able to hit a very well hit ball. So, yeah.
Got you. And so, of course, you guys were on this 4-game skid, 4-game losing streak, unfortunately. And then within that 4-game losing streak, I think you guys only generated 1 goal. And then, of course, Cincinnati scored a goal, I want to say, in the 64th minute, somewhere around that mark. What was your guys' mentality after they went out and scored that goal? What was because you're the leader of this team, what was the energy trying to be like to make sure that this didn't go down as a 5-game skid?
Yeah, I definitely think right away everyone was like, okay, well, in past games we might have been playing bad and like those goals might have been deserved, but in this game I think we knew that we were performing better than we had in the past, and we were like, this is not going to define us. We didn't get in a huddle at that time because I think we all were like, okay, let's just pick this up. Like, this is not okay. And before we went out, in the locker room, we were like, okay, like, this needs to be a win. Like, not saying Cincinnati was not a good team at all, not saying it was going to be an easy game. It was just more so like, we need to turn a page and start something new with Big 12. So I just think it was more so like our mentality. We were a lot calmer. And even when that goal happened and we kept playing, the level never went down. So we were just a little bit more calm than we have been in the past. Right. Really nice.
Okay, so that kind of leads into my next question because, you're a leader of this team. You're one of the very few seniors on this team who's been around the block for a little bit. What have you kind of learned about yourself being one of the few seniors on this team, being the captain of such a young team?
Yeah, I have just learned that, like, this soccer, it's a 90-minute game. You're going to make a ton of mistakes, and that's okay. I think at times we focus so much on the negatives, and when you do that, you dig yourself in a hole, and it's hard to come out of it. I mean, in practice it's different because you're not in a scenario that like is determining like if you're going to win or not. So I've just learned basically to just, it's okay if a goal happens. It sucks, but it's okay. Like, we can change at any time who we want to be. And also with the freshmen, I've tried my best to like help them understand that like it's okay. It's going to be scary. Like, this is your first year in college soccer. It's a lot faster. It's scary being out there, but just enjoy it. Like, don't forget that we played this game when we were little kids. Like, our younger self is so proud of us. I think that was one of my speeches that I first said at the beginning of the year. Just know that your younger self is looking and is so proud of you for what you're doing right now. So yeah, that's like the biggest thing. It's just over time, I've just learned that it's okay to mess up. You don't have to be perfect out there, and just have fun while you're doing it. So
honestly, I feel like it's working because I know I talked to Coach Matt Smith just last week, and I asked him about being like having this young team. Bro, there's a lot of really good freshmen on this team. It's like really like what you're saying, what he's saying. It's clearly working because like they're really good. You have Morgan Strumman, you got Joe Stees, you have all of them out there and like having a significant impact and not just going with the deep bench that you guys have. Like, tell me like at least about that. Like, did you know like who y'all had back there when like training camp started, being like, oh, this is gonna be a little bit different than past years?
Yeah. I would say that so this year it was the first time we came early. So we came 3 weeks early in the summer. And we did captain's practice 3 times a week. So I think in those moments, the first practice, of course, is going to be rocky. Everyone's a little nervous, getting out those nerves. But the second practice, I was like, wow, we have something special. We, our last one of the year, we did a full field 11v11 scrimmage. And I walked off that field and I was like, oh, I'm excited for this year. The freshmen add something to us. Like, it's at times you're like, wow, that's a big group, and you worry. But in this case, I think it worked great for us. We have not saying there's no room for error, but there's just people that you are fighting for your spot every single day. And I love that. That's good. You need that in a team. And those freshmen helped it. So yeah, they are awesome. They are so bubbly. They are just excited to be there. So it's been awesome having them on the team with us.
So where have you kind of seen this team grow the most? Because like I said, you've been there. You're one of the few seniors that's been there the longest. You've been around the block. I know you're a transfer from Ohio State, so weren't there like your freshman year all the way up to this point, but you've been around long enough. Where have you kind of seen this team grow overall within the years that you've been there?
Yeah. So I would say not that in the past we were not a close team, because there's 35 of us. You're not always going to be best friends with everyone on the team, and that's to be expected. But in the past, we had so many different groups that at times, like, we really did not click off the field. And this year, just something this spring clicked. We were just very close on and off the field. And especially I was an outsider in the spring. I had surgery done, so I was able to see how it was from the sidelines. And we were just able to connect better than I've seen here. So I don't know if that's whether we started hanging out more intimately, like with growing those trusting relationships. Mm-hmm. But when the freshmen came in, everyone was still super close and we just brought them in. So right away we had team bonding events at people's apartments, and did like pizza parties, spaghetti night. So I would just say that's the biggest thing. You always say you want like this family environment, and that's what you hear during like the recruiting process is that, oh, we have this family environment, but it really is not like that everywhere. And here I truly do believe that that's what it is. So
is that kind of like a big difference? Like, did you guys have a lot of these pizza parties and spaghetti nights in years past? Or are you just like, you know what, forget this, I'm taking it home, we're having spaghetti on Tuesdays? Like, is that kind of just like, you just kind of took control of that?
Yeah, no. I think especially with the leadership group in the spring, we wanted to come early. We all wanted everyone to be here because it's important. It's important to be with your team and to not start on day one of preseason and have everyone back for the first time. So in years past, we would do it at times. Not really. We would never really try and plan that much of team bonding. But this year we knew, especially with like meeting in our leadership group, we planned on doing all of this stuff. And yeah, it was just really good. We always, like a week out in advance, we would text everyone and be like, hey, like we're doing a team bonding event, like just like an FYI. So everyone knew about it. So it was a very planned thing, like not in the past where it's just like a random thing, like, oh, hey, like people can come to our apartment if you want to. So
cool. Okay, so now in moving into the second game of conference play, you guys head to Norman, Oklahoma, I think this Thursday at 7 on ESPN Plus. For those watching who want to watch it, I encourage y'all that you do. But with this game against OU, I think y'all got the win against them last season, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I recall for sure Jazsmin Brown saying she had beef with old girl from OU and what we talked about a couple episodes back. But pushing that aside and looking to this OU team, what do you guys have to do to make sure you guys get your first win in conference play so far this season?
Yeah, I think we just I especially noticed that after this past game, just sticking to our game plan. In the past couple of games, we've been so focused because a lot of the teams have been top 25 teams. I think we freaked ourselves out a bit and we worried so much about them, like, which is important. We need to hear a little bit about like key players and the formation that they're possibly going to play, and just what their tendencies are as a team. But we almost worried too much about them. And so going into the game, we didn't practice like on things that we needed to practice in. We practiced on things to get us prepared for them. And that's, I think, what we did really well, especially this week. We worked on what we need to work on as a team and what will help us get that win. So just focusing more on ourselves and not just our opponent coming up. So
okay, good. So it seems that y'all got the set plan. Obviously, I do not want you to give too much. I doubt anyone in Norman would be watching this. Don't care either way. I know you got to keep that part sealed, right? But still just knowing that you guys have to play within yourselves and not focusing on like you guys did with the other really good teams that you guys played again. And it just didn't turn out to be the result that you guys were hoping though, right? But Aliyah, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, dropping some knowledge about this team, about your stellar that should have been sports their top 10 goal, and hopefully more to come this season. Aliyah, thank you very much. We'll be right back here on Run It Back.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
We're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of two new offers every game day this September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now and sign up with code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On the behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensed partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions do apply. Everybody, welcome back to Run It Back. I am your host, Jazsmin Halliburton, and I am joined by a very special guest, none other than Jon the Shake Grove, whose show comes on Thursdays at Wildcat 91.9. And if you just missed, I had a really, really stellar interview with K-State soccer captain Aliyah El-Naggar, who had, in my opinion, a SportsCenter top 10 goal to tie the game up against Cincinnati. And that is a game that me and Jon will currently talk about because K-State really needed to either win this game or at the very least come out with a draw after a 4-game skid, Jon. And they did just that by getting a 1-1 draw against Cincinnati with actually two really stellar goals. First goal coming from Laura I'm so sorry if I butcher this girl's name, but Laura Zimbevoya. And then, of course, she had a really good goal that could have been SportsCenter top 10 herself. But then me being biased as I am, I do think Aliyah El-Naggar is 30 yards out on a set piece off the post is even better. But still a game that K-State needed to have, Jon.
Well, first of all, I completely agree. I'll agree with you. I thought that last goal should have been SportsCenter top 10. I mean, what honestly are we doing here? Not putting that on there. I was a little bit disappointed, but you know what? It is what it is. But this is it's a pretty big statement for K-State, especially starting off conference play. You know, based on previous years. Besides last year, we made the Big 12 tournament, but K-State's had a little bit of a rough start in Big 12 play. But they held the Bearcats off to the scoreboard. It was the first 63 minutes, I believe. And then I believe since the 64th minute, Cincinnati was able to get things together. They scored their first goal. It was a 1-0 lead then. And then K-State, I mean, they were pushing really an attack forward when Cincinnati was whistled for a foul, roughly around 30 yards from their goal. And then El-Naggar, she stepped up over the ball and ripped a thunderous slide drive free kick that went past Cincinnati's goalkeeper. What's her name? Anna Rexford. Anna Rexford, I believe that's the goalkeeper's name for Cincinnati. And it hit right off a right post as well. It was banking into the very back of the net. That was a big goal. It was her second goal this season, the fourth of her K-State career. It was a big moment in the game, especially when considering that it was very late into the contest. And I think Cincinnati had a last-ditch effort by Megan Smith. It was under 5 minutes to play, but Murphy Sheep, she was able to step up and preserve the draw. So she ended the night as well with 6 saves. It was all around a very impressive defensive performance late into the contest.
Yeah, especially I know Murphy Sheep, she had 6 saves. Most of them weren't necessarily like all that threatening, so most of them came right to her. I know one that I feel like not a lot of people are talking about enough, that Cincinnati had a shot in the final 5 seconds of the game that Murphy needed to make, kind of like a diving I don't know, right-handed stretch to kind of keep it out, even though it's probably an easy save for her. But I know for a second there, it kind of had me sweating because I was like, please, for the love of God, not in the final 5 seconds of the game. You know what I mean? But it was all good. It was said what was said, but she did her job in the net, making sure it was a clean slate after that. Because even though that goal that Cincinnati had in the 64th minute, that was gonna be a hard save for Murphy. Because it was full stretch. It was over her hands. There's not really a whole lot that she could have done about that, preventing that goal. It was just a damn good goal. And the same thing goes with Aliyah's goal, off the far post into the back of the net. The goalkeeper couldn't do nothing about that. It was just 2 incredible goals. And if it wasn't for those 2 things, this game could have easily, honestly, been a 0-0 draw. Because offensively, even though I know Cincinnati had 15 more shots, 7 of them were on goal compared to K-State's 8 shots, 1 being on goal. The 1 shot on goal is all K-State needed to get this draw. But still, offensively wise, Cincinnati had their opportunities, but nothing like overly threatening within the box. That 1 shot that they did have came from outside the box. Like I said, just a really good goal. But defensively, it was a fairly decent game for them defensively. A lot of the play was kind of in that middle attacking field where they had, I think K-State was doing a 4-5-1. So they had 5 midfielders. And that's where the majority of the game was, right in midfield, John.
And kind of looking back at several of the past games for K-State and matchups like Nebraska and Oral Roberts, it looked as if the 2 teams were kind of going at it on K-State's side of the field, like where you would kick towards Murphy Sheep. It looked as if a lot of those minutes were being played on K-State's side of the field. So it was great to see K-State kind of shift that a little bit more towards midfield and kind of moving away from several opportunities for Cincinnati to constantly get more opportunities to shooting. To getting additional goals in there. But this was a much needed draw for K-State. And going back to it, I thought El-Naggar. I believe this was her second career game. It was her second career game tying goal. It just sets up a new record as well. It was for the career game tying goals as well. So shout out to Aliyah El-Naggar in regards to that as well. Overall, it was a much needed draw, like I just mentioned, especially going into Big 12 play, because it's not going to get any easier. You're going to have to line up. You're going to have to go into the state of Oklahoma for up the next 2 games with the Sooners on Thursday, Cowgirls on Sunday. You also got a trip to TCU as well. Later on, you got number 1 BYU and Provo as well. So, by no means let me say that again. By no means is this conference able to. There's no nights off in the Big 12, and we say that with tons of sports, primarily for basketball. But
yeah,
you got plenty of top elite programs in the Big 12 at this moment. And it's going to be a little bit of a dogfight throughout September and October, for that matter, for this K-State soccer squad. But looking forward to seeing what else is there to occur in regards to that.
Yeah, and as you were talking about the upcoming games for K-State, of course, going to Ormond and Oklahoma State, and then before you know it, you're at number 1 BYU, right? And obviously no nights off in the Big 12, like with many other sports. And I think why their non-conference schedule, because it was really, really tough. I know it sucks for K-State to have a 4-game losing streak like that, but bro, of the 4 teams that they lost against, 3 of them were either like ranked or tournament teams. But of course, like Vanderbilt is a really good team. I think they were a tournament team last year. Nebraska, obviously, they weren't ranked when they played them, but they were ranked afterward, and they played. Nebraska played like a tournament team. And then obviously Memphis came in at 16th. And they actually played Memphis really well. They unfortunately just went down 1-0 in that game against Memphis. And then of course, sucks. But they took a loss 1-2 against Oral Roberts when they were up 1-0. So, but still, the opportunity of playing those type of teams in the non-conference, knowing exactly how tough the Big 12 is going to be. Because when I talked to Aliyah, and she said how they were practicing, how they were playing against like Memphis, like Nebraska. They were playing like for them. Necessarily, they're practicing for them and not necessarily practicing for themselves. So that makes sense. Kind of what she was saying. Like they weren't playing within themselves. They weren't playing K-State soccer. they were playing kind of not to lose soccer in a way. And that's kind of why they played the way they played against Nebraska, or why the result didn't go their way against Memphis and Vanderbilt and all that other stuff. They were so focused on the name of the team they were playing, and that's going to keep going. That's really going to keep going. Because like you said, you got Oklahoma, even though they're at 4-4-1 at the moment on the season. Oklahoma State has a pretty good program. TCU obviously has a good program, and it always been a really tough game against K-State. K-State and TCU has always played each other really tough. Even when TCU has been the top-ranked team in the country, they played each other really tough. Then, of course, Baylor, Houston, then going to be at BYU before you know it. So playing these really, really tough teams to start the season, especially as young as they are, and having the amount of freshmen that will play, because, John, you mentioned it kind of how Coach Kleiman does it. Like, if you're good enough, you're going to play. They're going to give you the opportunity to play, and the freshmen have really stepped up in this tough schedule that they've had.
Well, especially when you look early on in the season, considering several of the results that K-State came away with, you got a 2-0 win over a UTSA team that made it to the NCAA tournament. You went into Evanston and played number 18 Northwestern. That was like the second game of the season, and they took Northwestern all the way towards a draw as well. So not only are we just seeing a lot of teams are going to go through some growing pains, and maybe K-State soccer will see that down the road. Maybe possibly during non-conference in that 4-game stretch. But seeing several of these results just kind of shows the fight that this young squad has, and just shows what's possible, and seeing what's being developed right now under Mike Dabini and the coaching staff. It looks like they really got the train rolling, and it just overall it looks like this is not the same K-State team where previously started in 2016, where they were kind of struggling against several mid-majors. They're now pulling off some big results. Again, the draw against Northwestern, they beat UTSA 2-0. They tie Cincinnati in the first conference game of the season. There are a lot of opportunities down the road for this K-State squad this year, and not just that, but the season afterwards. Think about the players that are going to be coming back. So exciting times for the soccer program. Take it one game at a time, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Mike Dabini and that K-State soccer squad.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I know, and with this, they're kind of sticking with this Cincinnati game. Of course, K-State drew 1-1. It's kind of, I don't want to say they were undermanned, because they have an incredibly deep bench. But what I did notice, we didn't see a whole lot of Curran Singh. And I know I talked about her with Hannah Whetstone last week about how much of I think she's a big in the impactful transfer that we've had. She came from UTSA. She's one of the few seniors on this squad. How she is offensively, she's always up tempo. She's always trying to push the ball forward, and we didn't get to see a lot of her in this game. She might have been injured. I'm not fully sure. I think when I saw her, I think she had her wrist wrapped, I think, at some point. So she only played like 35 minutes, and that's the lowest total of minutes she's played throughout all the season. She's a huge part offensively on this team, because how much she pushes the pace upfield. And of course, we didn't see Morgan Strutman, the freshman, I think has 2 goals already on the season. One goal being a really huge goal. I think her second goal of the season, where she shot it from 24, 27 yards out, blasted it to the back of the net. So she's been really impactful on the offensive side as well. So those are 2 individuals that we either did not see a lot of because of injury, or didn't see at all, possibly because of injury, with Curran Singh and Morgan Strutman. And them, because they had a little bit of their offensive woes in that 4-game stretch of, them taking losses once again to really, really tough competition. Not saying the opportunities weren't there. It's just not as much as we know that they are capable of, but still them being able to do that. Because Andrew Moeller, she came in, she had her first career start, and she was a spark offensively that they needed on that right side, John. So knowing, that just kind of shows you how deep it was. You had Curran Singh, who wasn't in there a whole lot, 35 total minutes, and then Morgan Strutman was gone. Then you had Andrew Moeller getting her first start of the season. I think this might have been her first game of the season. I think, looking at her minutes, because I feel like I haven't heard her name a whole lot, if at all, this past season. But where she came in, got her first start, coming up on that right side, and she was pressing the ball forward. That just kind of shows you even more depth on this K-State team.
And I think for the most part, if they're just able to avoid the mental errors and just overall come with perfect execution, if they're able to kind of combine all those things, it's just a matter now of getting the getting the team additional experience. And like you mentioned, Jazsmin, the competition K-State played throughout a non-conference slate has been very impressive. And the results that we've seen from K-State, besides several games, but several, like early on, especially in the slate, it looked very, very impressive. And hopefully there's a lot this soccer team can take away from several of these games. I do recall a little bit, like there's been several opportunities here and there where K-State, it was just like right there, like they could have just gone with one capitalizing shot towards the back of the net, just a little bit misexecuted or mistimed several moments. But I think they responded a lot faster than anticipated for this matchup against Cincinnati. I think that's a big step in the direction as well. And they just I think, just kind of summarizing things up a little bit, it's they're just they're at the point where now they're able to get to the equalizer. Now it's just kind of building on top of that and seeing what you can go from there, where you can go from there.
Yeah, definitely agree. And of course, up next, they are going to Norman, Oklahoma, who is at a record of 4-1, and that will be in Norman on Thursday at 7 p.m. on ESPN+. Oklahoma coming off a tough loss to Omaha, losing 1-2. So both teams trying to improve. Still, even though K-State was able to get the job, both teams are trying to improve on from their last game. So please don't forget to tune into that soccer game. That will be at 7. And then, of course, once again, scheduling conflicts, K-State Volleyball will also be playing on Thursday. That game will be at 6:30 when they take on their first Big 12 opponent of the season in TCU. Orange Frogs down, and also Sooners down. I don't know, Wagon down. I don't know how it goes. Everybody has it.
For their traditions, I think there's like they always have this thing as like there's only one Oklahoma. I don't know. I mean, you just probably be pointing down or whatnot.
I don't know. I'll leave that up to the more creative folks on how to do that. But Jon, thank you very, very much for joining me on today's show. And thanks to Aliyah El-Naggar for joining me today. Also, Jazsmin Brown being our Studio Wax winner. She gets a free $50 gift card to Studio Wax. So congratulations to her. And thank you guys for tuning in to Run It Back. We'll be right back next week. See y'all.